Okay, so today's notes, we're going to talk about new concept that is aggregate demand. And I think it's important that we understand that aggregate demand is just really a fancy econ term that represents the total amount of goods and services that are being demanded in an economy. So we're not focusing on, one good that's being demanded, but we're really focusing on all the things in the economy that are being demanded. And AD, as we abbreviate aggregate demand, is also the same as the term aggregate expenditures, and it also equals the four GDP spending components, which are C, I, G, and net exports. So if you think all the things that we are demanding or buying in the economy are equal to the GDP, okay? And we take this concept and we can graph it. So when we graph the aggregate demand curve, we need to know that it looks just like a demand curve, except we label it differently. We label the curve AD for aggregate demand, and we're showing the relationship between the price level in the economy and the real GDP. So what that means is if we have a price level P, let's say, at that price level, we can see how much stuff would be demanded, and that determines our economy's output, which we label Y, which just represents the real GDP for our economy. So as the price level changes, the amount that we're going to demand changes, and that's going to impact the GDP for our economy. Now, if you think back to Unit 1, okay, a little graphing 101 practice for us. Whenever we have a curve, that curve can change based on several factors. We call those determinants. What we need to remember is that whenever we're graphing, an increase or a shift right of our curve is an increase, and a shift left of our curve is always a decrease. Just remember, left is always less. So the same holds true with this graph as it did in Unit 1 with our regular demand curve. Okay? Now, it's very, very important that we understand or can remember the factors that cause aggregate demand to change. We call those the determinants of aggregate demand. So I have listed those determinants out, and I think it's important first that we're really looking at the four spending components in our economy, C, I, G, and net exports. And any change in spending is going to lead to a change in aggregate demand. But what we've done with our determinants is we've broken down and we've said, okay, well, what are the factors that cause consumer spending change? And that's where you get the first group of determinants. So a change in income, a change in aggregate wealth, a change in income tax, and a change in consumer confidence. Those are all the factors that we have found cause consumers in our economy to buy more or to buy less stuff. So an example would be that, when we have a change in income tax, let's just say that there is an increase in income tax in our economy. Well, what we're doing when we do that is we're taking money away from people in our economy, which then means that they have less money to spend, so we'll see a decrease in spending. Okay? And that would cause aggregate demand to then fall. And the next four factors that are listed here, those are the four things that change business spending. Remember, I represents business investment. And so business tax, a change in interest rates, a change in expected GDP growth, and a change in business confidence will all influence how much money a business is spending in the economy. And I think the most notable determinant here is a change in interest rates. And remember that an interest rate is just really the price that a person or a business has to pay if they want to borrow money. So whenever we see those interest rates change, like for example, if there's an increase in interest rates, that means that people in our economy have to spend more to borrow money. And because we don't like to spend more, when interest rates go up, we're going to borrow less, and ultimately we will see less spending take place in our economy, which would cause aggregate demand to fall. And if I was graphing that on my aggregate demand graph, I would shift the curve to the left. So again, these are the determinants of aggregate demand, and these are all the factors that cause aggregate demand to either increase or decrease. And it's very important for us to remember that all four components, C, I, G, and net exports, all of those can change aggregate demand and cause the whole curve, the whole aggregate demand, to either increase or to decrease.